I don't think so. It can't be the same.
It can't be the same. Why? What do you think would be different?
Maybe because of this, the services or the work that they do.
Yeah. So there'll be a look and feel, in the health industry, they would be very deliberate around zero errors. When you think about a doctor going to operate on on a person who is not feeling well, they should be, the margin of error is you don't even think about it, should be 0%. The attention to details, giving someone the correct medicine, diagnosing the illness correctly, there will be another level of attentiveness that is required. Not that it's not required everywhere else. So the health industry has a corporate behavior around saving lives and knowing that maybe they don't have another opportunity. This is the one time, and the one time we cannot get it wrong. In the education industry, there is more room for creativity around learning. Think about CBC that has come into place and stuff like that, or the discussion that is going on, looking at someone's personality and say, this is where maybe you need to study. You get what I mean? So there's a lot of agility, there's more creativity and stuff like that, So every industry has its look and feel. And sometimes we even have layers of stereotype in those industries. You get what I mean? The creative industry is known for, really being, very bubbly, look at things differently. They even dress differently. In the earlier years in my career, we just thought, how do we accommodate these people who have come with hair looking like it's not combed, But over time, and they came with blonde hair, and they did that until all these generations came in. Now we're in Generation X. I even forgot the millennials and then stuff. And then we just started thinking, well, this is how the world is going to revolve. How someone looks and dresses should not be a factor of how they deliver. But of course, sometimes there's an element of the first impression you make. It's like coming to an interview with ripped jeans, and even if it is in the creative space, you need to give the occasion that you are going to the correct, what would I say? You need to dress for the occasion. Different occasions will get you to dress differently, will allow you to dress differently. That's what I meant, So it's important. So the impact of corporate behavior cannot be underestimated. And people will talk about the organization based on how they see you doing things. When we see drivers with branded vehicles driving recklessly, we just say, what kind of a company is this? And that's the first reaction. And you just think, well, how unfortunate that this is how they behave in the public. So how do they behave internally? And would I like to consume their goods and services? So the corporate behavior tends to have a direct or sometimes an indirect impact on the economic state of the countries and communities they operate in. If you see bad behavior on the road, do you want to consume their products? People sometimes make those conscious decisions. Any lack or deficiency in the corporate governance structures has potential to threaten the stability of financial structures globally. The very recent examples were in the economic crisis in the US, Brazil in 1998. That's a long time ago, and ever continuing meltdown in the current times. What has happened to Ukraine and Russia? The war came, and we just saw inflation hit the roof. There was a big impact and still we thought, is it really Ukraine, or it is just us hiding behind that? But when you thought about everybody in the world referencing the war in Ukraine and Russia, because they hold some important goods and services that come from those countries, and countries were not able to access them. And also sanctions put on those countries by some big governments, then they had a direct or indirect impact on the economy of the world. Of course, there was discussion around, okay, fine, Ukraine and Russia has gone into war. But also Afghanistan has been in war for the longest time possible. Why are we not talking about that? Then people just started saying, have we become so attuned to the war in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and not paying enough attention in those countries? Of course, things around human rights, corporate governance came into effect when you think about it. But recently, you will see how all those, we are connected village. And if war breaks out in one country, then we are all impacted one way or another. Feel free to weigh in. The most important objective of a corporation is to serve social and economic goals and for them to make real money. However, in reality, it is the economic goals that prevails, isn't it? The economic goal every time. The board is always asking, have you met your targets? Why are you not meeting your targets? It's all about profits. Then after that, to serve a social need, we work in this environment, so let us try and do something. But the most important thing is to make sure that the economic goals are being met. A corporate also needs to act within the limit of the law. However, if there is no compliance and a corporate engages in criminal activities, nobody is prosecuted and punished. Is that true? Is that true? Someone weigh in? Nobody is prosecuted and punished. Why is that so? We discussed it yesterday. We discussed it yesterday. In the real sense of they will not punish Catherine and Anne, they will punish the corporate, So the corporate is the one to pay finances. But the time we start now prosecuting Catherine and Anne, maybe we'll pay more attention to it, okay? It is essential to understand that corporates tend to engage in criminal behavior because the benefits outweigh the risk. And it's the shareholder who feels the brunt from all sides. As members of the community, they pay the cost of the crime itself. As the taxpayer, they pay for the cost of prosecution. And ultimately, as a shareholder, they pay the cost of defense and penalties. So when we get caught up, who suffers? It is the stakeholders, So all of us suffer. If we bring down a corporate, what happens is that the employees go home and they lose their livelihoods. The government does what? Loses money in terms of collecting taxes. The greater the suppliers lose a business inflow income because they can no longer supply goods or services to that organization. So the snowball effect is much bigger. And that's why I said I wouldn't even fathom why I would sit in a board, me as Catherine, around where we actually saying, let us fleece the organization. If this insurance we are taking, let's say we are taking an insurance, whatever insurance, GLA, GPA, medical, asset insurance, and we say, let's make sure that we inflate it by another 5 million so that we can all share a lot of it. And these things happen. We all know that these things happen, fraudulent malpractices, or even going out of the country for trips which you could have done, even you could have had those meetings in the boardroom, but because we want to earn per diem. And those are ways just to make money, which is not supposed to be made, So we lose the opportunity to pay more dividends to the shareholder. Because we're misusing resources because we think, oh, well, we're on top of the game. We are the ones, nobody will ask us. We are law unto ourselves. And then there's all this hue and cry. So the fact that we will not have a third sense or gut feeling to tell us, but I should be walking on high moral grounds, or ways I have said that I'm a person of integrity. Why am I doing this? And then you say, well, they are all doing it now. I'll be left here and I'll be the one standing out as a sore thumb. Allow yourself to be different. That's even what I tell my child. Allow yourself to be different, and you won't die for being different and standing for the truth. It's just but for a short time, and you can also agree to resign from such a board that is not making the right decision. So it's not that someone is going to outweigh you. So impact of, again, of corporate behavior. Also, there is no clear established systems of accountability for corporate, which can be acceptable by shareholders, employers, suppliers, governments, etc. It seems that certain level of corporate crime are just acceptable as way of doing business, giving kickbacks for us to be able to get that big tender. We've been looking for it. So how do we beat competition? Everybody is doing it, so let's join in. Is that how you want to work? Is that how you want to operate? The kind of punishment for corporate crimes remains a difficult area, even for the legal experts. Corporate crimes which are committed, because people will come and say, well, we were trying to do the best for the organization. We exchange whatever, we have put it as a line item for doing business. So it becomes very difficult for people to be prosecuted as individuals, whilst we can look at that from a corporate as a corporate malpractice. It cannot be attributed to individuals. Okay. We also see that during the recent times, it has been observed that there is a direct impact on financial systems, on growth, and removing poverty. The development of bank systems and market financial drives economic growth, external financing, and equality of investment, which bear the impact and growth of the economy. In such a scenario, the importance and relevance of good corporate governance structures in place goes a long way in ensuring a better lifestyle, economic growth, and prosperity for members of the community. We have seen that systems have now become more robust. Government even put in place a financial system for you to be paid. Your invoices have to go there through IMIS. Is IMIS still working? Is IMIS still working and working well? Anybody who's doing business with the government, or anybody who's putting an invoice with the government or working with the government? Yesterday, we had a couple of colleagues here, developed robust systems, where they are watertight for us not to be able to put any loopholes in that. But people just have ways of making loopholes. To prevent the financial crisis of the recent times and to make corporate behavior responsible and accountable, it is necessary that through systems and checks and balances are put in place. That's the truth of the matter. The initiative is to be taken by the government, corporate, legal structures of the countries in which the corporate operates, and approach should be created to standardize as acceptable ways everywhere in the world. But if I go to China, the way that China does business is almost very similar in terms of the way Kenya does business. In terms of looking through, the taxes could be different, but if I'm expected to pay taxes in Kenya, I'll also be expected to pay taxes in China. If I am looking at getting a license to do business in Kenya, there are some standards around the world that are expected, technical ways of doing business, like when you think you want to import goods, now we've all come together and there's all these documents that we put in place from one country to the other. We've standardized those things, but have we standardized corporate governance? Have we said that if your organization is found that it is not adhering to of corporate governance, this is what's going to be taken into consideration? I think the countries like the US, Canada, and Europe, some countries in Europe have really standardized that around how things are being done, and you will not be able to escape your responsibility around corporate governance, transparency, accountability, working on high moral grounds. You'll not be able to escape that. But we don't have a defined way that everybody ascribes to. Like the way we have AU or World Economic Forums, all these blocks that we come together. How can we not have a world block around corporate governance, and maybe we will not be having these issues that go around? Okay. So, any questions? Any questions around corporate behavior? Do you feel that there is place for now people to be sued directly instead of just the organization and the organization paying fines?
Catherine,
to weigh in, yeah.
can we say for companies being ISO certified is part of good corporate governance?
Certainly, I think ISO gives you a standard of ISO is the quality. It's a standard
management systems. Yeah.
A standard. We say that this is what this is how we subscribe to ISO. There are different ISOs, isn't it? And so in our industry, let's say we're in the health industry, we'll subscribe to the ISO standards in the health industry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So ISO gives you an opportunity to look at all your systems, in place, from your core business to all the other supporting structures that support your core business. And you put in place and you cover any gap. So you have a very systemized way. So when we say that XYZ is ISO certified, and people really are proud of that, then also issues around corporate governance have already been taken into consideration as well, because it starts from the top to the very bottom. And ISO is a good way of checking where your organization is, putting all those missing processes in place, and making sure that you are adhering to it. So if I've seen organizations who are ISO certified and they made great milestones, they've made great milestones in terms of revamping their business, going forward, people understanding the need for us to have very good standards around that, and adhering to that. So I guess it brings in a layer of accountability at all levels in the organization. So if you can be ISO certified, I think it's great. It's not cheap either. I think that's also one of the things. But the clamor for ISO and putting quality and a standard way of doing things, it gives you an opportunity to be a good organization around corporate governance. Thanks, Erin, for that. Yeah. Someone else?
Yes.
Is your organization ISO certified?
Yes, it is, Catherine. And if I can bring some experiences, we have seen a lot of consistency and effectiveness and efficiency and accountability, because you become accountable to what you do. There are certain targets that you have to meet, and you have to really work hard. And yes, and I think beginning of this month, we were going through the recertifications. It has the period of time.
Yes.
So we were going through the recertification audit and to learn up and down to ensure your department, each department is conforming to with the processes and everything that you are supposed to ensure. The structures are in place. And we went through it. It's normally, it's very, you overstretch. And it's a good thing, because sometimes we are research institutions, and when the scientists are looking for funding, so they look at, are you ISO certified? Do you have a working strategic plan that is signed? You have this and that. There are so many things that we have to comply with for the donors to come in and even, collaborate or partner with us. And we have seen this has worked for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have you worked with World Bank and IFC?
Sorry?
Have you
Yes, we have had
opportunity?
yes, we have had big projects by the World Bank. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have like two projects by the World Bank, huge ones. There's one that had a lifetime of 5 years, and even the first one had 5 years. And we have another one, but managed through our ministry, a big one, bigger now than the last two.
Exactly.
Yes,
and I'm sure the World Bank stretches you, like what we have said is that the World Bank what's the best, it's not that it's giving you money. Yes, it's giving you money, grants or whatever it is, but it also wants you to make sure that the money they give you is put it in the right intentions,
Yes,
so it's not like policing you, but they are really stretching you. The kind of due diligence that they do makes you a better organization, and you build in, you continue building those building blocks. So thank you, Irene, for sharing that. Very important. Anybody else would like to share what they are doing, mainstreaming, ISO certified, how the process has been, or you started it and you thought, it's too much, let's put it in the back burner. Okay, yeah. So let's continue. So it is important for corporates to practice good corporate governance, since an approach that is fair and ethical as well as transparent is likely to lead to greater productivity than an approach that favors short-term profits and encourages cutting corners. It takes a long time to get where you want to be. When you think about the Fortune 500 companies in this country, in this world, and you follow their story, they have worked hard to be where they want to be, and it's through consistency, approach to fair and ethical practices which are transparent that have led them there. Among the various factors that direct corporate behavior, the one underlying or common theme is the interaction of markets, and market players often dictate the outcome more than anything else. Moreover, corporates exist within the ecosystem of the market, and hence that moves the market moves them as well. So the factors that direct corporate behavior is often found in the market ecosystem that is prevalent in the particular country of that region. So now the new world order is that my competitor is my comparator, and there's a lot of collaboration, competition, that we are now so interconnected. Even if I'm doing in the same business, I will need to collaborate with someone doing the same business as I am. I cannot be seen now to be just wanting to work on my own. It's not working anymore, because we have seen that there's leveraging on resources, making sure that we are setting the same standards will yield better results. So how you make more profit from me, even if you're in the same business, then that is now up to you. It's all about now better delighting the customer or your client so that they choose my product over that other product. And I'll give you a good illustration about that. It's more the interactions in the market. Think about all the telco companies in this country, Safaricom, Airtel, Telcom, all those, they need to work together for the common good, because the regulator has set a certain standard. So now they come together and say, well, you have a mast in Kajiado, for example, Airtel. Can I please use your mast to put in my equipment as well? And you get into an agreement. Maybe you pay some fee for you to be hosted on that mast or something like that. So there's a lot of things that are going together. Every organization when you think about the industry that you are in, and you need to call your colleague to be able to find out what's happening in your industry. You are not stealing trade secrets. You know, people are coming together around the table and saying, we're in this industry together. How can we improve the value chain? This is what is ailing our industry. Can we have a joint approach to solving that challenge? So we cannot say that now we are not going to collaborate because we do the same business. Me and you are manufacturing pencils. You know, where are we going to make sure that the writing, whatever it's called, we get it, it's quality driven, it is not going to be harmful to the environment and stuff like that. So synergizing together, then going out to the market. That's why there's a price, there's the war price now in terms of, especially in the consumer world, is very, it's very defined. You will not sell your big 20 and M40. You know, the prices are very close to each other. So how now you differentiate yourself is the innovativeness that you need to bring to your company. And so what are you known for? Of course, there will be other things around brand awareness. You know, people prefer maybe a premium brand. Someone will buy a Mercedes, another one will buy a Toyota. But so there will be some luxury goods and items, but within the same concept of what it is, the real synergizing and coming together for us to be able to be market driven. So we create standards and we start coexisting together, and we start making sure that we are talking in one voice. We can go to the regulators and say, we have the muscle, this is what we want to do. And the regulator can talk to us and say, indeed, now we can see a standard of also ethics around the goods and products that we are bringing to the market. Very, very important. Okay. I'd like you to think around your industry and whether you have some collaboration or you are still hiding your trade secrets. Are you coming together around the table to have joint meetings? Anyone who'd like to share? Anyone who'd like to share? Even just looking at the factors directing corporate behavior, which are profit, corporate social responsibility, consumer preference, absence of regulations and rules. Okay, so we all know about profits. Everybody wants to make super profits. And there was a couple of years ago where, what's their name? Airtel and Telkom went to the regulator and saying that Safaricom was making too much profit. How did that story end? You remember? That was not ethical behavior. And indeed, Safaricom had a lot of money. They started Fuliza. How did that story end? We all in the market, we all read these things, we all see these things. These are good things to go and research on, and you have ready topics for your PhDs or masters or whatever area, whichever place you are in terms of your studies. Anyone? What happened? Of course, the competition authority came in, and so, they needed to weigh in to see whether there were any unethical practices in what Airtel and Telkom were saying. Nothing was found. And then, of course, there was the need now starting to say you need to separate the M-Pesa business and the connectivity business. So all that. And then it came around where we also a capitalistic market. You can make as much money as long as you are not taking advantage of the consumer. Okay. Corporate social responsibility. Why do we want to have corporate social responsibility? Is because we cannot work in isolation. We are social human beings. For us to be able to come and say, we operate in this market and this is what we want to partner with you, and these are the benefits that we will be bringing to the table. Consumer preference. Why do you like to buy Omo over Ariel? Why will you buy Crusoe over KCC? You know, just your consumer preference. And for people who are very price sensitive like me, you know, I'll go, maybe I'll look at the shelf, I'll stand there, I'll look at all, because there's a lot of variety, you know, when you go to the supermarket, when you go to the food aisle, like wheat flour or corn flour, unga ugali na unga ya chapati, you look there and there are brands and brands and brands and brands. And the difference is between 2 shillings, 3 shillings and stuff like that. Then you wonder, okay, fine. So why will I pick Jogoo over Pembe? Or why will I pick dollar over whatever? So just consumer preference. And then again, you start thinking, oh, which one was flagged out the other day for that they were not fit for human consumption? Then you wonder. So all this now are back to the market. So it's people who are very price sensitive. Of course, people who are very driven around preference will say, I only use Colgate, I'll not go to any other toothpaste even if it is on offer. So just consumer preference. And how do you connect with your consumer? You know, ability to sell. When you see those adverts, you know, when the girl at the supermarket, the lady at the supermarket comes and says, well, it's a new product, will you want to try it out? How do you react to new products in the industry? So every company is trying to appeal to the consumer to buy their goods and services. Absence of regulations and rules, you know, a fair playing game people can take advantage, and we have seen that that's why governments come in together to make sure that there are rules and regulations. So I'll not belabor too much. Anybody who'd like to talk anything about profit, corporate social responsibility, preferences, and absence of regulations and rules? Unmute yourself, please, and weigh in one way or another, please. Anyone? What do you like to buy? There's a lot of sales going on now. Black November. Consumer buying. Anyone? Preferences? Corporate behavior? What is your company known for? Do people like to buy its goods and services? In your business, how do you drive your business to make sure that your sales pipeline is always growing? Anyone? Okay, so just a recap, the motive of making profit is the major or the chief factor that drives corporate behavior. You know, for a long time, profits were the sole criteria on which corporates were judged, and hence corporations indulge in the psychological pursuit of power, of profit and power at the expense of everything else. You know, before we started telling them, hey, stop, before the world knew, you know, you remember where we talked yesterday of the wealthy people who now started, you know, they were so wealthy that they used to make the rules in the country. Then the church came in and all people started seeing things differently, until governments now had to come in and say, we need to regulate all this. So we all know that corporates are out to make a lot of money. And that's when the New World Order came in and said, no, let's have the 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps is, first, let's look after people. The second P is the planet. And the third P is profit. But for even when we looked at that analogy that was driven and said, no, who lets you make the profit? Make people your most important asset. And I know you can relate with this because maybe majority of us here are HR practitioners. People, the agenda of people should be the first one. You know, they're the ones bringing in the expertise. Treat them well and give them an ideal working environment. Show that you care and they will deliver more for you. You know, and then let's look at the planet, you know, where we operate in, what are we doing about it? And how are we engaging with the planet? And the planet are the communities that you work in, how you taking care of the planet itself, you know, in terms of emissions, in terms of how you dispose of your waste, you know, protecting it, completely and precisely. Then after that, we can talk about profits. And then they know, then they said, oh, that's really great. That's the way the world should go. Of course, we bought into it, but you know that the first thing is that the board will always ask you, how much profit have we made this year? Where are we? This is Q2. Have we met our targets? Are we meeting our targets? Before they think about the people and the planet. So there's need for us to understand around corporate behavior is that it's not about profit, and we have seen that things have changed. Around social responsibility, in the recent decades, the business paradigm has shifted somewhere with the corporate now emerging in some measure of socially and environmental responsibility behaviors reflecting in the timing change. We want to make sure that in our relentless search for profits, we can seem to be doing something for the community. And sometimes there are big scandals as well. Even when we go into those communities, there are still malpractices. But now corporates have known that those malpractices will jeopardize their businesses and being disrepute to their brand. So they are more responsible. Think about the tobacco companies, or even the manufacturing industry. The big corporates, the Nestle's, the BATs, the Glasgow, what do they say? They want to buy goods and services from the farmers, but they are very keen on making sure that those farms are not manned. Children are not the ones who are laboring in those farms. They make a lot of effort to go to the ground, because someone can just pick it and say, that farm in Ghana, children don't go to school, and it's children who man it. So there's a lot of work that goes on into the community, that we want to buy your products, but these are the conditions that we will buy your products, because they know those kind of loopholes can bring disrepute to their organization. So what are you doing, even you as a corporate today, to make sure that the people that you have engaged to supply goods and services for you, that there's no child labor, you have safeguarding measures to be able to make sure that you are not caught in a crossfire. I just bought goods. People just brought mangoes to me. I pulp mangoes and sell to the cooks and to the pick and peel for them to be able to dilute it and stuff like that. We cannot be whatever. So there are companies like trade fairs. I don't know whether you are in manufacturing, and is it fair trade practices that now companies have to ascribe to. So let's be alive. Let's try as much as possible that our suppliers prescribe. Even as HR, if you are engaging a third party, let's say you have outsourced and it might not fall in your docket. It might be facilities or procurement. If you have a security firm, if you have cleaners who have been outsourced, have you taken time when you sit in that tendering committee to ensure that the third party provider pays NSSF, NHIF, has fair labor practices in terms of disciplinary processes, for you to actively know that you are contributing to the social responsibilities to the third parties, even if it's not to the greater community, but the people that you work in that doing that. So there's a lot when you go out and ask for those examples. Your third party suppliers, have they, and you can see evidence, and you can see, are they paying the minimum wage? When a wage is paid, because a happy employee is an engaged employee. Okay, great. Feel free to weigh in preferences. Unga, why is there always a war for whatever? And I love it when they all come and say prices are down. Good time to save my money. Consumer preferences, way of buying goods and services. Consumer is king. I own the money. You have to come after me. But also, are those goods and services also fit for consumption? Not creating any tension, creative tension that we talk about in corporates, it must be well respected, that when you go, I will be able to pick this and leave that, and I'll be free to do that. So giving people all the information that is required for people to be able to make an informed decision. We also say, hence, there is a contradiction of sorts to which only the market-based economies are able to find solutions for, since the market corrects these contradictions by virtue of the existence. We say that we are competing now. We have to come together for the greater good of the consumer. Let the consumer make their own decision. I hope you can continue using my screen. Last one, absence of regulations and rules. The factor that drives corporate behavior around who we are as a corporate, what are we known for, is the absence of regulations and rules governing the corporate conduct. In countries where regulators do not have much power, corporates tend to run out of control in the market and make everybody dance to their tunes. You have no authority. I'm setting up factories for you, so there's nothing you're going to do to me. Will you welcome those people? We know sometimes, like in Africa, we can be boxed around a lack of resources, lack of technical know-how. We want to improve our economies, so we come and say, we give you so much slack. We give you so much slack. In Kenya, do we feel that in the recent past that we borrowed so much from the Chinese? They did a lot of, they've done a lot of work in terms of infrastructure. But do we feel that they have overtaken, or they have taken more than they bargained for, or we bargained for? Anyone? Anyone? The Chinese, our children's will be left paying the debt still. No opinion around that. And there is always a heavy debate, even when the last president, the former president, was being told when he goes to China, don't borrow more money, don't, even when you go anywhere else, please don't borrow. We're okay where we are. The ballooning the ballooning loan book in our country. Anyone who'd like to weigh in, give their view? Is it a good thing? Have we made good strides? Is it the right direction? Anyone? Let's try and participate a little more. So it could be anything, where the big brother puts their foot down. And of course, the real big brother is the government, who sets rules and regulations. So they can be arm twisting around someone who has more muscles than you. But how do we now try and balance around that corporate behavior? Even if you are the one who has a greater, let the person who owns it give you accommodate you, and be able to for you to be able to come and say, okay, fine, no problem. Let's strike a deal that is a win-win situation. Of course, that calls for a lot of humility, and not just thinking, well, quick money here, quick profit. After all, they wouldn't have it if I was not there. That's the same, even when you think about not corporates and governments, but also you as a person. When you are the one who has more muscles in terms of resources, but you know that this person is the one who has the expertise, do you strike a good contract and everybody goes feeling, okay, great. I feel that this is good. Everybody will meet their part of the bargain. So it starts with me, and then me goes into that corporate, because corporates are run by people. Me and you are the ones who run those corporates. We are the ones who make those decisions, So what kind of decisions do we make, and can we live with those decisions? Okay, great.
I think, Kathleen, maybe for us to be live, and I'm just happy about what is happening in Kenya nowadays. And even if we say that I'm sure that government as the ones that make all the regulations and rules, I think the citizens have become so much aware and of many things, and then they know their rights. And the issue of, and that is why the government is going the way of or embracing public participation. We have seen like what it has been ongoing with the CBC collecting opinions from people in Kenya, and wherever we have new rules enacted from the parliament, they have to go through public participation. Yes. I think it's a good thing in corporate governance.
Yeah, public participation is key and is important. And we've come a long way. I mean, when I look at Kenya when we were growing up and where we are in terms of we can weigh in on matters of national importance. We can voice our concerns, thank God for social media and be able to be felt and the government to be able to open its eyes and say, hey, there's need, not me. I mean, why would so many people have the same kind of concern? I think there's a point to be made. Let's investigate it more. Let's call them to roundtable discussions for us to be able to do so. I really respect those people who take time to go and voice their opinion. Take their time, go to the town hall meetings when they are called and say, this is what I feel should be done. These are some of the challenges that I am facing. When I watch news, when the committee of CBC was going around, and when you look at those parents and saying the challenges and also the good points, I think it was very profound. But again, what we also must do as professionals, me and you, we don't seem to participate. Take active time to go in. What stops us from doing that? Is it because we don't have time, or we already know what we want, decision making? Of course we weigh in maybe on the social media, but I only find it when it really is touching on you, as me as Catherine. That's the time I will run. But the greater good, my child is going okay to CBC. I'm trying to navigate my way around it, whatever. If it's not directly affecting you, you will sit back and sometimes you just think other people will do that. Encourage, including me. It's always a challenge. Why didn't I go when it was in KICC for me to go and give in an opinion, Even in the HR, the syllabus, the new syllabus for CHRP, did you give time and thought to look at it? Did you make some comments around the revision of the syllabus? Have you looked at it? Is it better than the last one? If you're planning to do your CHRP, so all those things, weighing and saying that, well, I'm glad that I participated and maybe they took my suggestions into consideration and put everything together and we have a better product. So corporate governance as well, plugging into those spaces. Hard, but sometimes I know we also don't have time. So corporate governance and financial crisis go hand in hand, And why do they go? The world sometimes goes into recession. We know that 2008 was a very bad recession. 2019, we saw another kind of looking bad recession because COVID then came and amplified it, and we'll always go through some financial difficulties. Money will never be enough in this world, no matter how much you have, and that there are people who are wealthy, but they still say, I don't have more money. They still want to make more money. Money makes the world go round anyway. But the following are some of the issues that have been discussed in the aftermath of global financial crisis, in the area of corporate governance. The excessive CEO's compensation has always come up in the World Economic Forum. Do we pay our CEOs for Fortune 500 companies? They say, no, the kind of bonuses that they are fetching And again, they say, but I signed up for this. I've been able to, but when we have a financial crisis, should we still be paying you so much money, so excessively? Has been a big discussion around that. Issues of transparency and accountability, really coming up and saying, these are the real figures that we are making. This is what we need to make sure that we are accountable for. Issue of pursuit of profits, big issue. It cannot be underestimated. And people who are very passionate about corporate governance will come and say, we need to tame these things and we need to talk about them a bit more openly for us to be able to balance. So whether we feel that the excessive compensation of the CEO, because sometimes the gap is so much, the gap is too much between, I don't know. These are discussions that are very emotive and driven. If I was given that position, would I pick it and run with it? What would I do around the whole structure of the organization that I have? But big discussions that elicit emotive discussions around it. So studies have shown that the CEOs in some companies, like the Fortune 500s, take home a pay that is 150 times of the average pay working class. That is where it's all coming from. And that's why these CEOs and these very wealthy people were told, okay, fine, distribute your wealth while in this lifetime to make an impact. Some agreed and some did not agree. It's my money, I use it the best way I want. So that's why they say that the average time of how are we being able to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity. If the CEO is taking home maybe 5 million per month, for example, we know CEOs who make that kind of money, and the average worker, let's say a manager, is taking home 75,000. There's a big disparity, isn't it? So those are the disparities we say around corporate governance, around ethics, around morals. What should it be? Food for thought. Issue of accountability, again, underlying ongoing financial crisis, how transparent are we? How overwhelming are we putting the benefits and the expenses? The expenses that we incur in the business, for us, are they unnecessary? I'd say, are we going for an unnecessary trips for us, whatever, and leaving the shareholder much poorer, even if we are giving our dividends? Last year we gave 0.5. We would still have given 0.5 if we had better management of our resources, prudent use of resources in every aspect of it. The government has introduced austerity plans around no trainings. And then what happens? The hotels came and said, you are killing our business because if you don't come, that is where they fetch the most money. So it's a snowball effect. I was just like, oh, okay. The government wants to save 300 billion. Is it? I don't know whether it's the financial year, but I don't know, it's for every year. Making sure trainings, unnecessary trainings, expenditure, maybe we can still continue having training, but can we have it in our boardrooms? They said no tea. Okay, tea, does it really make that difference? Tea and coffee? I don't think so. I don't know what other measures they put in place, but those measures, we have seen them. And those measures, I don't think, because we've always had about the first thing we'll do is cut unnecessary expenditure. But it hasn't worked. We need to do something different, maybe something more radical. I'm yet to see, because training is important. Maybe just a different way of doing things, but too late in the day around accountability. Again, the issue of profits, if you make excessive profits, does it make you look bad? They make so much profit and people start feeling bad about it. Where do we balance that? When you make too much profit, what are you doing about it? Are you supporting the greater? Are you plugging into more social corporate responsibility projects for you to be able to make a significant impact? And then you turn yourself into, you have your core business, but now what you are known for, you reinvent yourself and make yourself totally different, giving a product that is almost turned into a social enterprise. You know, the way you rebrand yourself. Think about Safaricom. They say connecting, making us better to Aweza, you know, yani feeding into the very DNA of the consumer, really having that connection. So you even forget that they're making all this money. You get what I mean? Another whatever would be like what Coke, bringing in happiness. You know, every time the festive seasons are there, they connect with you and say, connecting with family is coming and everybody is bringing a soft drink, you know, a Coke, a Fanta, you know, making you feel that you're part of that happiness, you know, connecting, really having that connection. Think of all the companies, the insurance companies imploring on you and making sure that you feel that you're part and parcel, that this product was made for you, you know, and you have to consume it and it's good for you. Consume it and you will see the benefits, and then we start valuing you. So you forget all the profits that were done and say, there's a good connection, I feel. And then when you see all this work that they do in the communities, you say, okay, fine, you know, they're using some of the money. Okay. So any question there? Anything that you would like to weigh in around factors directing corporate behavior? So I'd like you to be more alive going forward in terms of looking at companies and brands and say, how is their corporate behavior, their look and feel? When you interact with people who work there, how do they feel about working there? Around, are they practicing good corporate governance? What are their values? What do they stand for? How do they make profits? And how are those profits driven back into the society? How do they pay their shareholders? How prudent are they in the management of the resources that they have? The scarcity of resources. So even if we're in mining, how are we mining and reclaiming back those dams and mines that we take the resources from? Okay. So what are some of the best emerging practices of corporate governance? Anybody who can think about through them? We've talked about them. There will be just a refresher, a repeat of what we have been saying. Anybody? So emerging best practices of corporate behavior, what we see now really in the 21st century, it can be said that the underlying reasons for the financial crisis were poor banking practices, isn't it? And lack of transparency and accountability for the corporate. You know, think about a corporate who really didn't care at all until we thought, oh no, something has to be done. And what are some of the best practices that were brought into the fore? You know, practice number one. In the wake of crisis, several proposals aim at introducing greater transparency and accountability from the corporate have been set in motion. This includes so these are kind of acts that people have borrowed into the country. So the Dodd-Frank Act, or the legislation that has been passed in the US to monitor the accounting and business practices of the banks and the corporate. So that's a best practice, you know. Even in Kenya, we have introduced ways of monitoring the corporates and the accounting mechanisms. You know, there is ascribing to the international best practices, international IRFSs for a corporate, best standard accounting procedures for you to be able to know that you're a going concern. So how you prepare your accounts have to meet the international best practices across the world, you know. So best practice, one of the best practices is to ensure that you're using the best accounting practices in Kenya, whether you go in China, they all subscribe to one best in accounting practices. There are different IFRSs for each industry. I hope that you are keeping in touch, in line and in tab with your IRFS in your industry. Just go to the account department and say, which IRFS are we ascribing to? Which ones are we ascribing to? And why? Ask that question actually today. And you will see, oh, why? They will just say, in terms of corporate governance and for us to be seen as to be doing the right thing. And they will be so impressed. Actually, they will be so impressed, and I'm sure there will be some, they will tell you about how maybe the profits that they will declare. There will be an RFS maybe about how they amortize the assets in the organization and stuff like that. So challenge for you or homework for you. Okay. The second best practice, further to the Consumer Protection Agency, Elizabeth Warren is known. So to restore public confidence, consumer protection, the bottom line requirement for good corporate governance, is to make sure that there is consumer protection. Even in Kenya, there is a Consumer Protection Agency, and every country ascribed to it as a best practice. So the other day, now that reminds me, I went to buy toothpicks. I bought toothpicks from the supermarket, and they're the toothpicks which they're wrapped in a paper, And when I opened the pack, half didn't have toothpicks. There are papers inside there, but they didn't have toothpicks. Then I was just like, how is this? I mean, is this batch that really went bad? And I got thinking, is really either a batch, someone didn't pay attention just to check, there's a quality assurance, maybe pick up a few samples and say, hey, maybe the machine is not packing the toothpicks. And I was not about to start counting if they say that there are 100 toothpicks in the pack. I start counting, I feel, oh, this one has to, but I can assure you that half the papers don't have toothpicks. So I was just like, now what do I do? Okay, I'm just thinking like another me and you. Okay, maybe it's the machine that didn't pick the batch. But I had the right to take that batch, that container, and take it to the Consumer Protection Agency in Kenya and say, this is what I have bought. This is what I have found. I need protection and other people. Then I was just like, okay. Sasa nikipeleka, so wasasema wao watu manufacturing, watasema mimi ni kimbelembele. I would have just contacted them, And anyway, so I was just like, okay. I just thought it's the batch that went wrong. I hope that the next one I buy, it will be a better product. Will I buy that product again? No, I will not buy it again. That's it. They miss getting, unfortunately, of course, they miss getting my feedback, and they have lost a customer. Perhaps I should call them and just say that your toothpicks are half. Anyway, so the consumer protection. And I'm sure maybe you can relate with my story in terms of Consumer Protection Agency. And I think they do a good job in terms of protecting the consumer. Best practice number 3 is the regulations that the government has put in place in terms of stricter regulatory requirements, reporting done in a transparent and ethical manner. Like what I said yesterday, do you have an opportunity to look at the Safaricom ethical report, governance report for last year, where they said that they found a couple of malpractices. These were the decisions that they made. In fact, they said compared to the previous year and this year, this is where we are. This is what we have made steps. It was pretty interesting. I think the previous year they dismissed more people because of business malpractices that had gone against their code of ethics or conduct, and now this year they had less people, so improving the gaps. That's what we want to say. The regulator coming in, making sure that there are laws governing these corporations, whether it's a big operation or a small corporation. So we've made great strides in terms of making sure that the consumer is protected and corporate governance is working in those areas. So the 3 good practices. So did you know the culture of a corporation will always be accurately reflected by the public image of the corporation? Therefore, it is very important that good corporate governance should run in the bloodstream of the organization, since this in turn will reflect on the culture. So an organization whose internal functions are healthy will naturally look healthy even from the outside, from an external perspective, So best corporate governance practices equals to best management practices. I love this slide, every time I read it out and just think, oh my gosh, the look and the feel, the bounce in people's steps when they are working and they are collaborating is because, good governance. And it starts from the top. We say that the board sets the pace for good corporate governance. Okay, anybody who'd like to weigh in on this corporate behavior, best practices, would like to give an example? Is it true? Are you working towards this? Is this an ideal place you would like to get? Are you there? Are you surpassing this? Let's get a recap. Anyone who'd like to share? Anyone?
Catherine, I can share. I don't know whether somebody else could do, or I can give somebody a priority to share, or I can share.
Go, and then maybe someone else will. Go ahead, Irene.
Okay, about the part of the best practices that I know. I know the government through the Public Service Commission has been doing a lot of monitoring the corporates, the institutions through the every financial year. They have been doing the evaluation of values and principles under the Constitution, Article 10 and 234. And the issues of governance have been featuring so much. There is a score on corporate governance. And I remember at one particular moment, we really scored low. Not that we do not have good corporate governance, but I think it's tricky how you respond, or you give the evidences that they are looking at. So they are kind of there is a lot of sensitization when they are just about to do it, and they take you through how you go about feeling what they are asking in the tool that they provide. And it has been good because there are various issues related to governance that are asked in that evaluation. And they are able to score the organizations according to how they responded to the questionnaire. And
exactly. Yeah. So who starts with the responsibility of answering the questionnaire? Is it do they take everybody across the organization, or they sample a few people? What happens?
Yes. Yeah. The heavy responsibilities the tool actually is said to the head of HR. And and the CEO is mandated to ensure that the person, the champion here is the HR, to link up with all other departments whenever there are issues of issues to be filled in the tables, and they do not send it. There is a lot of strictness in this. So there is a table maybe to the corporate communication of the organization department, the procurement, the finance, the HR, the top management, and so the head of HR work very closely with the CEO, and CEO has to appoint the champions, the team, to work out on this. It's a heavy exercise. And
fantastic. Is it annual?
It's annual, yes, every financial year.
At the end of the financial year. Wow, yes. Just to look and the beauty is storing the data and to see whether we are improving. You
Yes.
know, last year we scored this year
Yes.
have scored this. What are
Yes.
the gaps that were there? Have we been able
Exactly.
to address those gaps, you know? And when you know that corporate governance is a responsibility of everybody in the organization,
yeah,
then people should not feel that, okay, wow, we'll be put on the spotlight, you know, that how is our department going to perform? When we are all pulling together in the right direction, then we should not fear. But again, if you know that you've not been doing the right thing and you're going to be marked down, then there's a problem. And that problem should be addressed. And to see how to come out of that challenge. And also, if we are seeing a pattern, you know, you go in and see, hey, there's a pattern here that seems to be taking root. Quickly address it and whatever. I think the government really does some good work. I guess publishing it would also be ideal for the public.
It's true. It's true,
in
Catherine.
terms of
What they do, the report, once the report is ready, it is presented to the president and it's discussed. Yes, it's a serious evaluation. And after that, they come and call the institution, the ones under state corporations, the ones under the universities and whatnot, and they call them and disseminate the entire report and tell you the areas. They publish a very big book, you know, with even with your results in, you know, where you went wrong. Yeah, it's a serious exercise, Catherine.
Is it possible? Is that a report in the public domain?
I think it is in the public domain. I'll check.
Okay, you can check and you can send. I'd be interested to see, you know,
yes,
in terms of some of the areas, because the government, you know, does some good work. Amazing, well done. Thank you, Irene. So, we'll not belabor too much around corporate social responsibilities, why we all know why corporate social responsibilities, and I'm sure you also have one or two areas in your own personal capacity of plugging into things which are dear to you. If I ask you what are you doing differently, you'll say maybe I mentor, I coach, I pay school fees for some children, I maybe feed children, more disadvantaged people than me. You know, I'm sure you are plugging one way or another. And it's giving back in the society. We are where we are because people have given us or invested in us in one way or another. We know we are a product of other people who took the initiative to get us to where we are. Maybe even if we came from privileged families, you will remember one person or the other, you know, or even your parents taking you to areas where they told you, let's support this one. And you thinking, well, if I grow up, I would like to do more. So we are a product of the society. And why don't you give back to the society? Now there will be a lot of, between now and December, there will be a lot of giving back to the society. You know, there's always seasons of where we know that during the big festive seasons, they'll be giving back. You know, Christmas is a big season. The Eid is a big season for giving, you know. The big religious, for the Hindus, Diwali is a big season. So we look at those seasons and times for us to be able to give back at individual level. But let's make it a habit that there'll always be more people who are richer than you, and there will always be more disadvantaged people than you. Let's try and plug into those places. Either you take your friends and do something, or even in your own personal capacity, do something. It feels nice. So there's increasing emphasis on corporate responsibilities. Why? Because we look good. But looking good is one thing. Doing it out of out of a sincere heart is another thing, but corporates will always want to be identified with that cause. So since I yesterday when I was introducing myself is that I work with us with children living with disability, especially blind. I plug into the disability space a lot. And I was very keen to listen to the president's speech when he was being inaugurated to see where he will align himself with the disability space. There was very little. And then again, I said, the speech writer must have forgotten. But when we went for a disability conference training, and there was a lot of hue and cry, from the disability experts and people living with disability. And they just thought that, will this really government give a lot of attention to the people living with disabilities? That's not, that brings me to my corporate social responsibilities with corporates. So corporates who want to plug into the disability space, let's say you give wheelchairs, you give walking sticks and stuff like that, wants to brand them, and that they didn't mean bad, So let's say this company, all of us here, we work for ACHRP, the 20 of us here work for CHRP, and we say ACHRP, the company that is running this, whatever, and let's say Anne is our CEO, and Anne says, we need to sponsor children in Joytown. Let's buy about 30 wheelchairs, and then we brand them with ACHRP. A long time ago, that was done. Then there was a big hue and cry from people living with disability. You need to plug into that space because that place makes you extra human. Not that you're not human. It makes you extra human. And the things about people living with disabilities say, and how insensitive that we can be, they don't want help. They want you to see them as just perfect as human beings. The equipment that they use is a means of them to be able to live a comfortable life and to live a fully life. So they said, no, you are looking at me, not me as a person. You are looking at what you are giving me. So over time, there was a big campaign, and you will not see people living with disability, their equipment or tools that they use branded anymore. They in fact said, if you're going to brand them, don't bring them. Nothing for us. There's a saying in the disability said, if not for us, nothing for us without us. Nothing for us without us. Involve us. So in that corporate space, sometimes we are so fixated in terms of saying, this is what we do. This is where we are. And then again, in that conference, just the other day, have you watched the new Safaricom advert? There's a boy with disability. There was hue and cry saying, very insensitive, because the boy, and it's a beautiful advert. Even me, I said, why are you people making noise? This is such a beautiful advert. They said, no, Catherine, look at that advert again. Tell us what is wrong. And what was wrong is that the advert, beautiful, connects with us, but what was happening is that to Naweza, they should have brought a ramp for the boy with disability to come in, but they pulled him, they helped him. And that watered down that advert completely for the people living with disability. Safaricom missed the opportunity, as it's being discussed in the disability space, to show what we should be doing as a country. We should have ramps in buses, in public spaces, a ramp that lets people go in with their wheelchair or walk with their walking sticks and stuff like that. So we need to learn, and we don't mean bad. That's what they say. You don't mean bad, but nothing without us, nothing without us for us. we have to have that discussion. So I'm just trying to say that in this area of social responsibility, how are you plugging in as an organization? In the area of sensitivity, the people that you are donating to, how do they want to be left feeling? They first want to be left feeling that you've connected with them, and the equipment you have given them, it's genuine for their use without having to just stamp and say it was from us. Of course, it is important to brand and say this room was made courtesy of ACHRP and stuff like that, you know. So that doesn't whatever. But if it's personally being presented to that person, think about that person and how it makes them feel. Okay. Anything you'd like to weigh in on that? Almost wraps up my slides on corporate social responsibility and how corporates are supposed to behave around that area. Anything that has come to your mind that has made you think differently? Anyone would like to? Okay, great. So corporate social responsibility in the context of social governance, CSR means that the corporations have to take into account social and environment, and the environment as stakeholders and cater to the needs instead of just pursuing profits at the expense of everything else. You know, corporate social responsibility around corporate governance. It's not just we are doing it and we are doing it genuinely. It's not just for pursuit for profits. We also don't want to give you, we don't want to plug into this place for you to consume our goods more and our products. We want to be true partners. Social, the activities we do around supporting, not helping, supporting the societies and communities that we live in should be joint venture to alleviate any poverty, to increase economic activities in that place, but not to draw onto us to use those products. No, you remember consumer preference? If I choose to use something else and I live in this community, you should not mark me down, or should not frown upon me, or you should not victimize me. So there's that connection between corporate social responsibility and corporate governance. Many corporates now routinely report on how much cost they are imposing on society, the negative externalities, and their efforts towards minimizing them. Moreover, corporate governance is no longer just about transparency and accountability within the business framework. So it is also within the outside framework. Instead, it is been broadened to include the whole gamut of social environmental concerns that make up the corporate governance agenda. So you will see in the annual reports of all publicly listed companies or even private companies which you have a stake in, that they will report on how much they are using in supporting corporate social responsibility projects. In recent years, multilateral bodies like the UN, WHO have established normative rules and conducts and classifications under the UN Global Compact that binds organizations to social and environmental responsibilities. The big COP27 that we just came from, I was so tickled. Big Four this year. The government said we are going to take a very lean team to COP27, which I think they did. But Kenya was the second highest in terms of participants. I believe many people went. The government went, represented by all key relevant departments were there. And with their small teams, I think there was a report the other day before I still read a newspaper every morning. Every morning, I read a newspaper. So I look and say how many people, and the statistics were very nice. Ministry, Office of the President, 12 people, Ministry of Environment, maybe 20 people, stuff like that. Then, of course, all these other people were made from other corporates, NGOs who ascribe to corporate whatever. So we were DRC, who are so in need of many things, send over 400 people. I was just like, DRC, where are your priorities? Corporate governance again. I can go, I'll get per diem. What am I bringing back on board and stuff like that? So there are bodies who have said, let's set the standards. World Trade Organization, the UN have established standards around how to sustain those corporate projects that organizations ascribe to. Because many times is when we say, oh, the school needs water. So what we bring are tanks. Look at that scenario. The school in the slum needs water. So we take 4 big tanks of 10,000 liters each. Tanks are a subset of the water, isn't it? What can that corporate have done better for a school maybe to have water completely? Sustainability and putting in a project that befits, that talks the work. Anyone? Someone? It's as easy as ABC. Anyone? I think the most obvious thing is to see, can we build a borehole for this water, for this school? If there is another borehole next to the school, because we can't build too many boreholes, how about pulling pipes and making sure that the water reaches the school, stored in these 4 big tanks that we have brought, and maybe come and say, we are willing to pay water for this school for the next 5 years, which is part of our strategic plan, which is within our strategic plan as CSR. How much is water in a school? And just say that is what we'll focus on. Water will keep students in school. Water will clean the environment and stuff like that. A better decision instead of just taking tanks and saying, well, we brought, a sustainable way of corporate social responsibility around corporate governance, transparency, connection with the people, making sure that you are doing what needs to be done. So I'll not go through the live example. So what's the role of the board in corporate social governance? Corporate social governance. Who takes the most responsibility in corporate governance? Okay. So the role of institutional investors in corporate social governance, an important aspect of corporate governance. So we now look at how institutional investors or the investors who are not individuals, but large fund managers and investment houses play a major role in promoting good corporate governance. The main issue about institutional investors and corporate governance is something called the agency problem. You've heard about the agency problem that creeps up with professionally managed organizations. Someone tell me about the agency problem in business law, in corporate governance. Agency problem? Anyone would like to try? Okay, let's talk about the agency problem. Nice. Get new knowledge or maybe we refresh ourselves. The agency problem indicates that managers have conflicting interests with that of the organization, and they seek to promote their own interest at the expense of the organizational interest. That's the agency problem. So I work for this organization. This is my work, but I have conflicting interests. I want to make the most and to milk you guys dry. Hence, managers seek to maximize their benefits in relation to the profits, and hence there is need for counterbalancing this with other forces, the agency problems. Managers who work in that organization, what would be some of the conflicting interests that managers have? There could be many as we are. The agency problem.
Some of them could be conversing during recruitment, issues like those.
Conversing during recruitment. Thank you, Irene. Someone else?
Maybe I can try Catherine.
Yes.
If it's something to do with procurement, I bring in my uncle from the village and select him in the procurement committee to provide that service, and I don't declare conflict of interest.
Exactly, isn't it? And that's why we say it from the very beginning. Every year, your code of conduct, which includes your conflict of interest, you should be able to do that, And when we find out that I have brought in my uncle from the village, I don't declare that. What are the consequences that should follow? So these things they're there, and we cannot turn a blind eye to them. So these forces can be counterbalanced by the institutional investors who have an interest in promoting a longer term health of the company in the following ways. How do we make sure that this agency problem, we address it once and for all? I keep saying, if this company was given to you today, would you take it? Zero money, zero. It's your birthday. Take the company. Well done, good and faithful servant. The other one is that if you had an opportunity to invest in this company, would you be willing even to go and borrow money from the bank, and pay interest on it, because you know that for sure it's going to make profit, and I know the governance structure is top-notch, there is everything internally is done to the expected standards, or it even surpasses the expected standards. So how do we counterbalance these institutional investors who have an interest? So let's look at some of them, and I'm sure you can relate with them. One of them is by actively pursuing the boards of organizations to follow effective corporate governance. Institutional investors ensure that the corporate put in long-term interests of the organization, such as well to ensure the organizations put shareholder interest over the interests of the managers. Make sure that you are paying people well. Do you remember that problem that we have in corporate behavior, where CEOs are paid too much money? Then again, we pay too little money, and when we get an opportunity to pinch from the cookie jar, we have an opportunity. It's like paying a cashier at the bank, or even a good whatever you're able to pay, but we choose to pay very little. They work with money every day, and they just think, well, one day I'm going to take so much of this money and I will go. Don't tempt people. Discuss with them, pay for their expertise if you're able to pay for their expertise. Continually do better. You cannot pay, even if you can pay super, like the Fortune 100 companies, but are you able to create an environment that is so ideal that I even forget, your working environment is so ideal for everybody, that they just say, okay, fine, I maybe not earn, but the way they treat people in this organization makes me stay here. So what have you done as an organization? If you can't pay top dollar, you can't be at the 75th or 100th percentile. When you're at 50, what have you tried to balance to make sure that you're compensating, to make sure that people are staying? Okay, great. So the role of the institutional investor. Institutional investors often represent large chunks of shareholders, and hence they can be an effective check to the tendency of managerial class to put their own interests first. institutional investors, large chunk of shareholders, people who have the muscle to come and say, we are going to check, leave me and you. Maybe no, let's say people who are don't have a lot of you invest in Safaricom shares. I mean, you can't if it's an institution coming to buy Safaricom shares, let's say your pension circle and me, Catherine, we will have there's like day and night. Me, when I go for the AGM, even my point is there far. But these people have the muscles to come and say, open the books, let's see what's happening. So role of institutional investors are the ones who really have a big say. Even the ones who invest small shares, I still am an owner of that company. I've owned part of the company. We have the right to come and say, let's check what is happening. That's why when we are called for AGMs, please run if you've invested in any company. So the role, moreover, they have the necessary expertise and knowledge in running organizations. They sit in the board of other companies as well. All this expertise, that we bring in, you go and you bring it into this organization and say, I'm an expert in finances. That's why our boards have diverse people. Have an expert in the business that we run, have an expert in the support services that we have. So you'll see that boards are well aligned and they bring in the right people to be able to oversee what managers are doing in that institution and say, no, this is not how it is done. And my expert is in it. Why are you doing things differently? If you have an HR expert who sits on your board, do they help you? Do they stretch you? If they found a malpractice in the business, would they be able to point out and say, no, it can't happen? In terms of knowing that, we have to keep the checks and balances. But if you bring in people to a board who are, you'll just say, look at these board people, they don't know what they are doing. And because you don't understand the business, then the loopholes, you'll not be able to fill the loopholes. You'll not be able to understand the reports when they are presented to you by the CEO, who's the secretary of the board. You will just think, okay, fine, it's going on well. And maybe the business have no shilling anymore by the time and you've lost a lot of money and the shareholders are not happy. Institutional investors are more effective than small shareholders. In most annual general meetings, small investors raise questions related to corporate governance and are overruled because, like what I said, they do not have the numbers. On the other hand, institutional investors, the big ones, represent a homogeneous number and have the bargaining power to make a difference. The flip side is that institutional investors do not usually pursue radical changes and instead focus on maintaining the financial and operational efficiencies of the organization and promoting good corporate governance. They will not endear themselves to people. They're rough. We want profits. We want to see how it is going. Open the books. Let's look at the books, But for me, I'm just thinking, okay, fine. They could be, we need to make sure that the money is fine. But how are they treating people there? Do they understand how many people in that organization? Maybe are there loopholes, So for me, my small little voice of saying who works there, how many people, no. The big institutional investors will come and say, no, move aside, I want to see how it is done. So there need to be balance. So even when you are a small investor, don't ever feel that you don't have an opportunity to weigh in. So the fifth one is, finally, institutional investors can be a rock of stability in turbulent times. It can help in pressurizing the corporate to take notice of many objections of the shareholders any objections of the shareholders are generally ignored by the corporate. Further, institutional investors make sure that the company follows social and environmental norms and fulfill the obligations to society and to the government, So when we all come together, and that's the balance that we want to strike, big institutional organizations and the smaller ones, we want to make sure that we all have a balance and come and say, the agency, the person representing me there that I have that I have actually employed is doing the right thing. Okay. Any question there, agency? The agency. So you are an agency. If you're working somewhere, you're an agency. And how have you positioned yourself so that there's good corporate governance? Have you sealed in the roles? The role, who is an independent director? Board, we see non-executive directors, independent director, executive director. Who are all these people? Who are these people? Independent directors, just as the name implies, independent director. So regulators all over the world have been implementing a series of policies aimed at improving corporate governance in organizations and ensuring that companies follow ethical and normative rules of the business. A part of this initiative has been to go to the companies to nominate a certain percentage of their board to persons not affiliated to the company at all. So we bring in external people who have the expertise. Very important. These are the so-called independent directors who sit on boards of companies in a purely professional manner without having a hand in the day-to-day running or the activities of the companies. Those are your independent directors, And if you want to join corporate boards, I think they announce them, be on the lookout. I think in the Kenya government, there will always be vacancies. We need a board member, we need a board chair, If you want to go and do good and sit in boards, I think it's a good thing, can go for a board trainings and stuff like that for you to be independent, So the role of the independent director is to make sure that we are pulling people who are professionals in that industry, come in. And I liked what Irene said yesterday, is that their board chair is very aligned to the organization strategy. And also what we picked yesterday was he rallies to make sure that the people who sit in the board have the same vision of supporting the organization. That's really a good board, stretching when the MD comes and says, or the CEO, and presents the board papers, we are looking at them articulately. It's very unfortunate, and we've read it maybe, and we hear frustrations from our colleagues and our peers, and saying our board, they don't read the papers before they come. We've sent the board papers well in advance, within the stipulated time, but they come, they looked so far removed from the discussions, not really focusing and giving us the guidance that we need. If anything, we are better than them. So when you sit on a board, what I keep on saying, and let your presence be felt in that board. Make a significant milestone. When you leave that board, you're leaving a better organization. The impact that you bring on the table is really valued because you are an expert, you understand the business, you're asking the right questions, you are providing the right suggestions, you are pointing the opportunities as when they come out for you. And if you are sitting in a certain committee, like if you are HR, support the HR people in that organization as much as you can. Go in, when you have the opportunity during those board meetings, call that department and say, how is it going? We found this, plug yourself actively, you're not trying to jipendekeza, but you're trying to focus in the expertise, and then they know that they can rely on you, create that relationship. And of course, with the blessings of the chair, if you want to do such abstract and do things differently. I've seen it work with people who do that. So is to bring, of course, we have said objectivity, the role, the US, it's the same, independent directors, they stop people from making personal decisions, benefiting themselves, that would bring the organization down, So just to look at what I have said, picking up any unethical behaviors that have no objectivity, making sure that we are complying to the rules and regulations, we are supporting the strategy, we are evaluating the strategy, we are making decisions as when the environment totally changes, within the confinement. And I saw that a lot, during COVID. What did boards do? Boards went and made different decisions because they needed to accommodate themselves with the pandemic, and to support the business and to make sure that the business is staying afloat. So in general, that is the role of an independent director. If you are called in, what will be your role is to make sure that you point out any malpractices, you are asking the hard questions, you are giving direction, you are bringing in your expertise, and you can be relied upon. And more so, you are reading the board papers well in advance before the solution is found. We also know that sometimes that these boards can be riddled with a lot of interference, political interference, especially big corporate, not big corporate boards, big government boards. So like yesterday, I don't know whether the CEO the board chair of KPLC, whether that I saw it and it was pulled down from Twitter immediately, that they're planning, the government, which holds 51% stake in KPLC, is planning to move a special motion to have the board chair removed. I said, why? When did he begin her term? Isn't there a way of evaluating this? So, well, I was left picking and saying, where's the corporate governance? The big brother has come, the institutional investor, you get what I mean, has come and pulled its muscle and saying, so I wonder what the 49 of us will be left saying. So again, political interference in these big government-led bodies. What can we do? Some people will tell me, I can't join such boards, but you're such an expert and authority. You can go and try. No, I will not try. I'll tarnish my name. What's going to happen if we all refuse to join those boards? That's always my question, because of we fear political interference and messing my name or my brand that I have built over time. Anyone? Anyone who'd like to try or give a suggestion? As an independent director, or you'll join boards which are safe, you know that you have full control. Anyone? We also know, so yesterday, the new appointment of the new board of KRA, nice. Anyone? The term of the other board chair had lapsed.
Catherine, I have seen them in our institution, the independent directors. And some of them are very, very smart. They bring actually their expertise. Yeah? When you see somebody is arguing issues on, giving opinions, according to how best that issue can be handled. And I've seen them. I have seen, and a good example I can give, a very new independent director appointed this year, and he is the chair now of our scientific and technical committee. So he has come with the expertise from the university and is guiding the scientists the way they should go in the issues of collaborations and partnerships in the scientific area with the communities. And I've seen it work.
Exactly, yeah. So there are many success stories. I think the ones which are amplified, again, are the boards which we feel that the parastatals or the state corporations are not doing too well. So there's always a wrangle, and I keep thinking that these wrangles are just to make sure that things are running well. How can we get it working? The public is concerned. There's hue and cry about the quality, some scandals coming up. Can we position people to do things differently? But when it works, there's real joy, you know. I think majority of them work. It's just a few which have some rotten bananas, which the government tries to mop up. Any public, limited, or private company needs to have a board of directors constituted for the purpose of oversight and accountability for the company. You know, how does the board of directors, what is the composition? How will they be selected? How are they inducted? What is their responsibility? How can they be terminated? You know, there's the act. The Company Act has some of the has some rules and regulations around board responsibility. I would encourage you to go and look at the Company Act. Always nice to have an odd number, not because of anything, but sometimes things get so heated we have to take a vote. You know, wrong way to get into making a decision, but sometimes it's called for in terms of what can we do. We don't seem to have the same mind, so majority now has to win, you know, but in the real sense, again, try and make sure that you have that. And of course, we know that the MD becomes the secretary of the board, because they will be going to answer questions. They will be coming back with action points of what needs to be done. So think about the board in your organization. How do they support you? When the CEO goes into the board meeting, do they come back excited and saying, this is what the board has approved? We have the approval now to go forward, or these are some of the things that have been raised by the board. Let's come together as the ESCOM team and discuss them. And then after that, cascade it down. You know, sometimes we just think that the board is shrouded with so much mystery out there. They are part and parcel of us every day. You know, they set the pace. We look upon them to do what needs to be done and to give direction. But the people on the shop floor should know what is my mandate, what has come back, what needs to be implemented, what are some of the goodies have come as well. You know, the goodies are not just a preserve of the few up there. Even us need to be partakers of those benefits that have been given by the board. And even the criteria, if we say the people in this category have been given this, why not this category? What was the criteria used? You know, I see a lot of that. And how do you defend that as the CEO when you're coming to give in that information? So the concept of the board has been introduced explicitly to ensure the ethical and formative rules of conduct of corporate governance are followed. That's it, you know. That's their big responsibility, that they are adhering to the corporate rules, the code of conduct in the organization. The conflicts of interest have been signed, and if there are any malpractices, they have been picked up and they have been addressed. Okay, so just I won't go through each and every slide because we know about the board of directors. It is important to bear in mind that all the problems with corporate governance boil down to one thing: board of directors aren't independent enough. You know, how do we make sure that they are independent enough? Also, corporate performance can be improved by holding the chief executives or the MDs to stricter performance standards. The KPIs are clear, they're cascaded down, they have signed a performance contract at the very beginning. It's being evaluated, and of course the performance contracting cascades down to everybody. So everybody is being evaluated. And if there are any tips, then if there are any gaps, they are being addressed for improvement. Okay. So relationship between the board and board of management is that it should be cordial. There should be no underhands. There should be no underhand current. Having that relationship is key to having a good run board, that everybody can speak their mind. Anybody can pick up and say, this is what I have heard, please explain it to me. But you don't want infighting, that the chair does not get along with the MD. At what point does it get to that level? I keep thinking, oh my gosh, the board and management has taken each other to court. Okay. It's not been working well. When the board, there's hostility, and we've seen board takeovers, board dramas, there's this camp, there's this camp. What we are trying to say is that the board of directors and management must have a symbiotic relationship to serve and to serve well. And they all must understand what is their role and responsibility. Up to what, if the board has too much interference with the day-to-day running of the organization, then there's no joy. People feel as if they're being micromanaged. But if the chair is setting the pace, understanding what is their duty, and when storms come, he's there holding the management and saying, we'll weather this storm together, it's a better position to be in. A good example that was said the other day is the strike at Kenya Airways, where the board and the management seem to be in sync, talking the same language, aligning, leaving the MD to be on the forefront to be able to make those decisions. And when there's misunderstanding from a public perspective or from a government perspective, just so that it is the board chair who took responsibility of that. So making sure that your roles are well aligned and articulated, that there is no confusion. Because then if we started seeing, oh, one person's talking, the other person's talking and stuff like that, then we start thinking, oh, this board is not working well. So we have the responsibility and also understanding people's personality. You know, the board has come, well, it's not me to be able to make that responsibility, but how do we make sure that that is working? So the relationship is very key and very important. Let's go to the benefits of corporate governance. They could be as many as we are. In the interest of time, very, very quickly. Benefits, they could be strong. It inspires confidence, ability to raise capital effectively and efficiently when you go to investors or investors want to come. Minimizes wastage, corruption, risk, and mismanagement. There is positive impact on the share price. It lowers capital costs. You become a good brand anyway. Provides proper inducement to the owners as well, to the managers to achieve objectives. It ensures corporate success and ethical economic growth. It ensures organizational is managed in a manner that the best interest of all. It forms help in brand formation and development, so to your own free time. So what are some of the principles of core corporate governance? We said the ethical approach, organizational image and culture, balanced objectives, agreement to the goals of all interested parties, equal participation of each party, the owners, the directors, the staff, and the other stakeholders who are in the ecosystem. There's active participation. Proper decision-making mechanism exists. This should reflect all the other principles and given due importance to all stakeholders. Decision-making. Everybody has a responsibility in decision-making. When we are making that decision, how are we incorporating everybody to get their views and suggestions to make sure that we are all aligned? Hearing for stakeholders, though have greater importance than others. Accountability and transparency, of course, something that we have been talking since yesterday to all the stakeholders. Okay. So what are some of the rules that govern corporate governance, ethics, carry out on a clearly ethical basis? We said that we are going to introduce GMOs. GMOs have been introduced. Are we going to make sure that we label foods on the shelves that this is GMO food, this is not GMO, for people to be able to make an informed decision, for example? Or are you going to say, because Kenyans don't want GMO and that is hot on the heels, I'm still using GMO, but I will not label that. Corporate governance around ethics. Alignment of business goals, a proper stakeholder. And what do you know about GMOs? I don't know. Anyway, so just an example that I made. Alignment of business goals, a proper stakeholder decision making model should in each appropriate goals. You know, what are some of the models that you use in the business to make sure that you're achieving the goals, the business goals, and those models are well understood and they are easy for everybody to use. And the people who make those models have taken into consideration all the objectives of their business. Organization, the structure of the organization should promote good corporate structure. When you look at your org chart, how is it laid out? Do departments intermingle? Do they interconnect? Is it lean? Is it metrics? Is it large? Can we collapse some departments? Are job families sitting together? Is there too many layers of protocol and communication? So your organizational, how it is laid out, talks a lot around how your corporate governance is going to be executed. Strategic management, an effective and efficient strategic process should be implemented, which incorporates shareholder value. And finally, reporting, transparency, accountability should be propagated through a properly structured reporting system. Okay. So that marks the end of our corporate structure of our webinar. Just right on time, we say in summary is what is corporate governance. We have seen the rules of corporate governance. We have talked about World Bank of directives. What are the principles of corporate governance, the factors directing corporate behaviors, and features of a corporation. So thank you so much for your time and for opening up and for the discussions that you have put in. For some of the examples I have been able to reference from a local perspective. I open this session to any questions, any feedback. Was it useful? Is it something that you will take back? What is the one thing that you have taken over the last 2 days? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
Catherine, maybe I have only 1 or 2 words. It's all about balancing issues or relationships and interests, taking care of interests of the people. So about that, yes.
Yeah, balancing, taking interest of the people and taking interest of the business. Very true. Someone else? Someone else? Thank you, Irene, for that. Anybody else would like to say, give feedback? Was it useful? What are you taking back to the business? Thank you, Irene. Insightful and very interesting real issues. Thank you for that feedback on the chat. Okay, so I'd like to thank you. Thank you, Anne, Rita, insightful, and to Dan and myself, thank you. Always good facilitating. I would like to thank you so much for participating the last 2 days. I hope that we will see you in the subsequent ones as we continue to learn, we continue to interact, as we continue to set expound our connections and our networks. Always a good opportunity to network and to interact. Okay, great. Irene, do you think you'll be able to share with me your, just to point to me where that report is? Let me send you let me put my, where is the chat here? my number. You can pick my number, and maybe
Please send me your number. I will share and send you.
0722762481. I'll put it there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just pick it before we end the seminar. So for me is to thank you once again and to wish you God blessings as we go into the weekend. Let's try to pick up all those things we have talked about, corporate governance from an ethical perspective and from a technical perspective. God bless all of you. Take care. See you next time.
Thank you, Catherine. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye, Catherine.